Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Dragoon's Den. Today's episode is going to be a deck profile and it is an update to my Ultramarine meditation deck, aka Merlanteans. I have changed it up a fair bit since the last actual video I did on this, and while I will list some of the changes of why I'm doing some things in here, I'm not going to spend another 20 minutes talking about this deck because you guys already know what this thing does. It's been everywhere, either at the regionals, YCS circuit. It's gotten 2 second place finishes now. If it wasn't for Macro Rabbit, I'm pretty sure this would have won Barcelona and maybe even have done better at Seattle, but needless to say though, this is one of the best decks in the format. And even if it wasn't, I'd still be playing it. That being said, I am running the Undyne engine now. I know I hated this thing in the past, and I hate Controller, but I love Undyne, so you just really gotta, you can't help but run one thing without having the other. I'm thinking about going to 3 controller, just so that with those times when I do open with a controller, my other Undynes are still dead. If you open with 2 controller in this particular build, your 3 Undynes are now dead, unless you can average them back in, and it's just awful. But Undyne is your best turn 1 play. It's your answer to just about anything, depending on what's on there. If your opponent's got a Phoenix Chain holding your Megalo down, you can just summon Undyne, dump a heavy infantry, get the controller, and then pop the Phoenix Chain. Also, Undyne is a hilarious out to Doom Cal overnight. I don't know how many times people go turn 1 Doom Cal on DN. I summon Undyne, activate its effect. They go, okay, negate, destroyed. Okay, fine. Send water for cost. What do you mean? I negated your monster effect. You don't get anything. It's the same thing with effect Veiler too. People Veiler this and they assume that means nothing else happens, but you're only negating the effect. You're not negating the activation of the effect. And even then, you send for cost. People seem to think that Veiler, if you Veiler something, you negate the cost as well, but that's not the case. If you activate the effect of Judgment Dragon and I Veiler it, you still pay that 1,000 points. End rant, for now. Then I'm also running 3 Diva. I know some people are running 2. I like 3 for basically 1 Diva for every marksman's in the deck, so I'm running 3 marksman, I'm running 3 Diva. It's just an amazing card. It can answer a lot of situations. Your opponent's sitting on a non-dark monster that's giving you trouble, Diva gets rid of it with Catastor. Librarian beats over a lot of monsters, Gachi Gachi makes your marksman bigger, and then Armory Arm plus Megalo is massive damage. Then you got your 3 copies of Dragoons, 3 copies of Marksman. He still gets in there with that poking effect. That's how you can win a lot of games. Say your opponent's got a Soul Drain, well then you're probably going to switch your game plan from using your Atlantean effects in the graveyard to their on-field effects. And this guy is fantastic when your opponent has Soul Drain but an open field out, because you're just going to be swinging for that 3,200 damage over and over again. Then you got the heavy infantry. His double summon effect is actually becoming very, very useful. If you open with a Diva, 2 Divas, and then you summon this guy, you can just do so much bullshit. And then for the Mermail lineup, first 2 Megalo, because I was only able to get 2 Megalo when they was on pre-order. Patrol and Toad and Yu-Gi-Oh! Mint were both down to 1 copy, so I was like, whatever, I'll buy them now, and then when I get a chance, I'll buy the 3rd one. Well, this was back when Megalo was only $64. Now he's like $128, so that's not happening anytime soon. Regardless though, this is not a full-on aggro OTK build, so the 3rd Megalo isn't as needed as opposed to the more 3-3-3 of almost everything else line. I like the 2 Megalo and the 2 Slim because I've only got 2 Megalo and 2 Pike. I like the 2-2-2 line as it allows you to fit more stuff, more traps, more tech spells, and more tech monsters. But if you're playing something hyper aggressive, then yes, you could probably play 3. Otherwise though, these cards are all very amazing. Megalo's a double attacker, he triggers Atlantean effects. Slim gets you to Megalo or Pike. Pike gets you to Undyne, which then lets you start your stuff. Then lastly, when Moonland Glacier ends up to Lord, you may have noticed I'm not running Trag or Gores. I just decided to cut out all the gimmicky stuff and just run what is needed for the deck. At least as for the monster goes. I do have a couple gimmicky spells and traps in here, and even then, they're not so much as gimmicky as they're just really good tech. So on to the spells. First up, Double Typhoon. If I was not running 3 Marksman, I would be running 3 MST because macro is a thing. Macro Rabbit is extremely popular. Space kind of helps with that. Then, only 2 copies of Salvage. I do understand why you would play 3. It's just I don't know if I really want to go with 3 just yet. I like my 2 right now. It's really amazing with Diva, Marksman, Infantry, Undying. Helps regulate your graveyard for Moulin Glace. Then you got the Unholy Trinity. Mind Control because you're running so many tuners plus Undying. Undying makes this card live right away. If your opponent summons a Thunder King and you got a controller, you can just summon the controller, take the Thunder King, make a Black Rose, which lets you do stuff. Or if you go Diva, you summon Marksman, you take the Thunder King. Oh my goodness. Because then you could be like, you can just do this typical Diva Marksman swing, and then you can get out an Infantry, and then you can go Diva, Infantry, Thunder King in the Stardust, and you got your Marksman still on the field. So Mind Control, I really do think it's worth looking at. If you've got space in your deck, or you just want to fit in that 41st card, which I'm not doing at the moment, this is a 40 card deck, but if you want to fit that 41st card in, Mind Control is definitely worth looking into. And then one Pot of Stupidity because it's not banned, so I'm using it. Why it's not banned, I don't know. It needs to be banned alongside Reborn. Then for the traps, 2 Abyss Sphere because I'm only running the 2-2-2 line. If I was running 3-3-2, then I would consider going triple Abyss Sphere, but right now, I just feel with only 2 Megalo, 2 Abyss Sphere is what you need. It kind of gets really clumpy during like the mid to late game, which of course I know this deck doesn't really have much of one, but just saying. Then I'm running 2 copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device. The card's just amazing in general. Get a monster out of the way, swing twice with Megalo, swing with Marksman, get a Dragoons. I've talked about why this card is amazing in this deck before. Then 2 copies of Raigeki Break. Undying makes this card completely playable. You may have that Abyss Sphere that you got off of Megalo, but you don't really have any more things for it to be used for. You can just pitch Abyss Sphere. There's those times where you can just pitch something that you don't need, and Raigeki Break will get rid of it. I know Phoenix Wing Wind Blast is also an option, but I just like the actual removal of Raigeki Break as opposed to spinning back the card on top of your deck, because you're going to have to deal with it eventually. The only advantage that Wind Blast does have over Raigeki Break is it gets around monsters who can't be destroyed by battle, or by card effects, which is what Compulse does as well. So, I could run other cards in this slot. I have been debating going either 2 main deck Phoenix Chain or 2 main deck Mirror Force over the Raigeki Breaks. I'll have to see. More play is going to be done with this deck. I'm always play testing with this, I've noticed. Like, there's always like something I want to try out with this, and I end up like having like 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 games on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, and suddenly time has flown by. But that's the kind of deck that this is. It's the kind of thing where I'm always wanting to try out different ideas. And then my last 2 trap cards are obviously Torrential Tribute because it's the nuts with a face down Abyss Slint. Now I'll show you guys my current extra deck. This is subject to change once Cosmo Blazer comes out. I don't have a side yet because it's still being worked out. I want to try Billy Break's idea of a conversion side where you're bringing in Skill Drain and Beast King Barbaros, but at the same time, I also do like having outs to Dark Worlds because they're really predominant in my area. So that's why I can't do the full-on conversion side with prisons and bottomless and such forth. But I do have like Max C, Imps, Barbaros, MST, Taker, yeah, generic side. So yeah, back to the extra deck. First up, I am running a copy of Mermail Abyss Gaios. He can be done, and I do like his effect to prevent level 5 and higher monsters from attacking. I just have to remember that my own Megalo Abyss can't do that, but hey, that was a misplay. I learned from it. But I do find his effect to be rather useful, but he is going to be dropped for Bahamut Shark once Cosmo Blazer comes out. I don't have Bahamut Shark in here. Rank 4s are difficult to make, and the really good one is Abyss Dweller. Once we do get Cosmo Blazer though, Bahamut Shark's going in because Bahamut Shark into Abyss Strike is ridiculous. I had a game against Slight Swarm where I got that play off. He then proceeded to Dark Hole me, and I ended up losing no field. I didn't lose any field advantage at all because I still had 2 monsters on the board because one of them was Gachi Gachi. So, Abyss Strike, very good. But without Abyss Strike, Bahamut Shark is just not as great as you'd think he'd be. Of course, then you got your number 11 Big Eye. This card is just stupid. If you go Megalo, and then you get, what was it, a Gungnir out, and then your opponent drops a Gorz, just take it. One copy of Abyss Dweller, effects rather useful, triggers your own guys. Leviathan Dragon, Zenmaines, Gachi Gachi, no Daigusto Phoenix. I'm really finding the card to be subpar at this time. I'd rather just run the absolute needed monsters, and even then this guy's kind of iffy. Well, I just don't know what I would run on this guy's spot. Acid Golem? Perhaps, but just the bare essentials here. And then for the Synchros, one Mistworm, Scrap Dragon, Stardust Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, Gungnir, Tiger King. This card is just so good when you do that Diva Marksman play. You just bounce back the Marksman and any Abyss Spheres you set, and he's the reason why I also want to main deck Phoenix Chain again, because being able to just negate a monster and then bounce Phoenix Chain back, swing over, set the Phoenix Chain, and just keep doing that every turn. That's so much fun. Then a Hyper Librarian, Catastor, and Armory Arm. And that concludes my update to my Ultramarine meditation. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's been very fun to play, and I really just enjoy playing the deck in general. Despite having play tested around with it all this time, I'm still finding new tricks I didn't think of before, and that's what I really like about this thing. People have been comparing it to Inzectors, which I think is completely wrong. If anything, the deck plays more like plants in earlier formats where you've got your obvious plays, your power plays, your sacky plays, but you've also got little plays that may not seem like much at first, but within like a turn or two later, they can be what wins you the game, and that's just what I like about Merlanteans. It's explosive, and depending on its build, it can also be control oriented. It can do a lot of things. There's ways to take this deck, and I'm just really curious to see how this deck will change as the format rolls on. Cosmo Blazer is coming out at the end of next month. The sneak release is January 20th, so I hope I'll be able to pick up a Mermaid Abyss straight from there. As it is though, this deck is probably going to change like here and there. Until then, thank you guys for watching. Until next time, stay frosty.